Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the Extra Mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now, your host, Jackson Mummy, owner of the Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to episode 222 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is your host, Jackson Mummy. Really glad that you're with us today. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join us, find out what's going on in the world of the bar exam and all things bar exam related. If this is your first time on the podcast, I want to welcome you. Glad you found us. Appreciate you being here. If you're a longtime listener or a subscriber, thank you. We appreciate that so many of you share this podcast with your friends and colleagues and help grow the size of the podcast. We do offer the podcast in a couple of different formats. If you prefer to watch, you can go to celebrationbarreview.com/222. That's the episode number, and you can watch the entire episode, and the show notes are right there as well. If you prefer to listen to your podcast, you can do that pretty much any place podcasts are distributed. Apple, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, they're all there. So glad to have you with us in whatever form you are getting this information. Well, today, as I'm recording, we've just gotten the first cut results from the July 2018 Georgia bar exam. We also had in the previous week the Ohio results come out. So we are now waiting on Texas, which will come out on Friday, November 2nd, and then California on mid-November. And those are the two big remaining jurisdictions around the country. There are a few remaining small uniform bar exam and just sort of odds and ends jurisdictions remaining to report. But we have most of the results in now, with Georgia coming in on Friday morning. And I want to just take a few minutes before we get to the rest of our episode to talk about those Georgia results. Now, let me just tell you that what we've got coming, you're going to want to make sure you stick around for. This week I had an opportunity to interview a successful UBE student. Her name is Cindy Myers, and her story is remarkable. She said to me, I think you should title it, She Fought for Her Dream. And I was like, yeah, okay, I think so. She did fight for her dream. Cindy's story is truly remarkable, and I think you should bring some Kleenex. You're going to cry when you hear this story. And what she did and how she accomplished her goals is a wonderful, remarkable story of resilience and a desire to really make a difference and an absolute insistence that she wouldn't give up. And I'm so proud of her, and it's a great, great interview. She is so wonderful in the way that she explains her journey that actually she did most of the talking. So I think if you've been a long-time listener of these podcasts, you're going to be like, oh man, this is great. She did the talking, not Jackson. So stick around for that interview. We'll get to that in just a minute. But I do want to talk a little bit about the Georgia bar results. As I said, those just came out. And the news, again, is not good, as it has been pretty much throughout the country so far in this July 2018 bar exam season. The overall pass rate for Georgia bar takers was 61%. That is not a very good number. You will hear in much of the press the number of 73%. That is the first-time bar taker pass rate. That's the number that the examiners are going to be touting. But even 73% for first-time takers is still a very low number. And we saw a real disparity when you look at the success of the Georgia-based law schools. Certainly schools like Emory and GSU and University of Georgia do pretty well. But then you get down to John Marshall and to Savannah Law School, and the results are not good at all. So we've got a real disparity there, but the overall number, as I said, was 61%. But here's the real shocker. The overall pass rate for repeat bar takers was only 18.5%. Now, we've been saying for some time that repeat bar takers are beginning to get dangerously close to the 20% number in major jurisdictions. This is one of the first jurisdictions where we're actually able to quantify that and say for sure that it was below that 20% threshold. That means if you're a repeat bar taker, the odds are clearly stacked against you. Now, that is not a reason to give up. We're going to talk about that, and I think the interview we're going to do with Cindy will be a great explanation of why you shouldn't give up. But I think it's important to understand that it is a very difficult test in all jurisdictions, but certainly the Georgia test, 18.5% repeat rate is going to be a real discouragement to a lot of people. One other number that's of note is that there were about 100 attorney applicants. People just sit for the one day of the exam. The pass rate for that group was 76%. So that group actually did better than almost any other group on the bar exam. And then when we get to the foreign trained applicants, these are the foreign educated applicants, and this is still a relatively small program. There are only 25 of those individuals that took the exam in July, but of those 25, only one passed. So that's a 4% pass rate. And that means that for foreign trained students, this exam is brutally difficult and requires an awful lot of extra work. Just having an LLM from a law school in Georgia is not any guarantee of success. And we've had several of those students in our courses who have passed, and I can tell you it was a lot of work for them, a lot that they had to put in. So if you're a foreign educated applicant taking the Georgia bar exam, I would suggest that you actually look at the uniform bar exam sitting in New York. It's actually an easier test, a lower threshold number, and I think it's a better test for you. And we did an episode a couple of episodes back where I talked about sitting for the UBE. I would definitely check that one out. I think it would apply if you're a foreign trained applicant. Obviously, there are also some people in Georgia who went to Georgia state-approved schools. These would be Atlanta Law School and John Marshall. And those Board of Bar Examiner-approved schools, they just aren't doing well at all. So, unfortunately for those graduates, they can only sit in Georgia, so they don't have the option of sliding out of the state. But I think for a lot of people, the strategy of sliding out of Georgia if you're failing into a UBE jurisdiction is one that you absolutely ought to consider because, frankly, when you're looking at this low repeat bar taker pass rate, there's not a lot of reason to stay in the state and to continue to bang against that number. Now, we've done better than that for our students, and we're pleased about that, and I hope we'll have some interviews to share with you in upcoming weeks of our successful Georgia bar takers. But still, it's a really, really tough climb to make it. And so for those of you who did pass, congratulations. It's awesome. We're so pleased and proud of all of you. But for those that did not, I would not say to give up, but I would say reconsider your strategy and think about what you want to be doing here. It may make more sense to slide over to Alabama, for example, for the UBE and look at getting a 260 instead of a 270. So that would have made a difference for a lot of people. So something to keep in mind there. All right. Well, as I said, we've got Texas results coming out in next week's episode. We hopefully will be able to talk to you about those. And then we'll be waiting on the granddaddy of them all, California, in mid-November. Our expectation is that the results will continue to follow this trend that we're seeing across the country of lower rates. And we certainly saw that last week in New York. As I said, the bar pass rates in New York were low. It's now starting in the press, in the blogs, online. It's beginning to become apparent how bad it really was. Probably the worst or next to the worst results since 1984 for a July bar exam. So New York is a tough test as well. And we really want to encourage people, if you took the exam in July 2018 and you didn't pass, then you need to do something different. And that's the title of a free training that I'm offering coming up on Thursday, November 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to talk about how to make the next bar exam, your last bar exam. And the concept is you need to do something different. You're not going to get there in this environment by doing the same old things. Memorizing, repeating, cramming, reciting elements just simply doesn't work very effectively. And so what we want to do in this free training is to show you the 4 steps that you need to take in order to pass the bar. I'll be supplementing that with case studies of successful students who've done something different, how they did it, and why it worked for them. Now, this training is completely free, but you do need to register in advance. A lot of folks already registered, and we're really excited about this training, but you do need to hop on and save your seat. The webinar free training will be on Thursday, November 8th at 7 p.m. You can register by going to the show notes for the video or the audio page and just clicking on the link there, or by going to our website at celebrationbarreview.com/webinar. So that's celebrationbarreview.com/webinar. You can register there and be all set. Now, if you don't want to wait until November 8th, or that time or date don't work for you, we do have an on-demand version of the same information. You can schedule your own showing, and you'll see that button when you get to the webinar page as well. Now, in the live training, I'll also be doing some Q&A at the end, so it's definitely worthwhile to participate and be a part of the live session that we're going to do, so I hope you'll join us for that. All right, well, I'm really anxious to share Cindy's story with you. I think it is a remarkable story. She's a remarkable woman, and I know that you're going to be impressed when you get a chance to meet her and hear how she fought for her dreams. Well, hey everybody, welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers, and we have a really, really great story from a really, really great person. So Cindy Myers is here, and the really great part of this story is that you have passed the UBE, right?
Yes, I have.
And it's been a journey.
It has been a long, hard road, but I finally did it with your help. Some celebration.
That's great. I really want to share this story. And just before we came on live, you said, I want to help other people. And I know that that's sort of what your whole life has been about in nursing and in law, is helping other people, helping your family. So why don't we start with you just kind of sharing with our audience a little bit of your background and what led you to be in a place where you wanted to make the move into law and take the bar exam?
Sure. Well, I am the youngest of 11 children, and I grew up in a small town in Erath, Louisiana, and my mother always emphasized the hard work and going to school. It was always a big deal for me to go to school and go to college, so I did, and my mom said, hey, be a nurse or be a teacher, you always have a job. So I went into nursing, and I enjoyed that. I worked with neonatal intensive care babies, and then one day I felt that God gave me a calling, and he placed an assignment on my life to go to law school. And after getting my bachelor's degree from nursing, working in nursing, and I decided, okay, I'm going to go to law school. At the time I was married to my husband Richard, and he looked at me a little sideways for a minute.
I bet he did.
Then he said, hey, you know what, I'm ready to start a family. And I said, well, you know what, being the compromised person that I am, I said, well, let me take the LSAT and let me go ahead and put my application in, and let's try. So we did, and we both got both things. So I had my first daughter, Lacey, and I got into law school. So I had to call law school and tell them that, hey, I need to defer for a year. The law school was Stetson University College of Law. It's the same law school that I received my Juris Doctorate from, and they were wonderful. They allowed me to defer for that year, and then after that, I came in as a non-traditional student. I went part-time with my young baby, my husband, and at the time we were in Florida, so the family was in Louisiana. And I made it through law school. I enjoyed it. It was a supportive atmosphere. And after that, my husband had the opportunity to head us back to our home state of Louisiana, because we love Louisiana. It's where all of our family is. We're both close to our families. We headed to Louisiana with a new baby, and got there, and then I had to face the Louisiana bar exam.
Yeah, now let me stop, because some people in our audience may not know this. There are 49 states in the U.S., and then there's Louisiana. And Louisiana is completely different in every respect when it comes to the law and the bar exam. It's the only state that doesn't offer the multi-state exam. It tests on Napoleonic law, not civil law. It is completely and utterly crazy. And I say that as someone who lived in Louisiana for many years. So it is a completely different animal, isn't it?
It is. I didn't know what I was up against.
Yeah.
And having all of my education from Florida, I was not totally equipped to switch over to the codes that Louisiana requires.
Yeah.
And so when I took the first bar exam, it I thought I did just fine. I had taken the big box bar. I did everything that they told me to do. I traveled in to sit actually in the rooms, and they didn't have a live professor, but they had a video recording, so I was sitting with all the rest of them. I did all the questions. I did everything they told me to do. So I thought, oh, all right, this is just one little step. And the step became a stumble. Mm-hmm. It became a stumbling block in my life. Louisiana bar really did a number on me. So I took it multiple times and was not successful. So at that time, I decided, me and my husband said, well, you know what, here comes my husband. He loves family. So he's like, hey, you know what, you have your law degree, you have your nursing degree, just step back for a minute. I said, well, you know what, okay, and let's go ahead and have our next daughter. So we had Lacey, and then we want to have Lexi. So now we have 2 children. I head back to nursing because it's a little easier to do with young children. So I would work and do like weekends and whatnot, and pretty much help grow my family. Help my husband with his career and help my family, because we were back in Louisiana, so I could help my extended family, like my awesome mother, Joyce, which was up in age at the time, but she's with it, okay?
Yeah.
So from that point on, I just took a step back, and every now and then I would give it a go. Well, let me just take a test. Let me just try. And at some point in time, I told myself I couldn't stay in that position any longer, that I had to do something different. And I did. I quit my nursing job. I cashed in my 401k. And I decided that I was going to switch from Louisiana bar and try the uniform bar exam.
Okay. Now, again, let me just stop so everybody understands. Louisiana has no reciprocity. It's a different test, as we've already said. And so now the uniform bar exam, which is offered in currently 33 states, but back then a few less than that, was out there. And it is the universal bar exam, or the uniform bar exam, to be more precise. And you decided to sit in which jurisdiction of the UBE?
In D.C., in Washington, D.C.
Right. But you weren't living in D.C. at the time?
No, I was not living in D.C. I was in Louisiana.
Okay.
What I decided to do is, once I had really made the commitment that this is going to happen, one way or another, this is going to happen. Okay. I actually called Stetson University College of Law and said, hey, I hadn't been able to pass, the bar, but I was in Louisiana, and I said, I need some isolation time. I need somewhere to be that is where I can focus, because like I said, I had the family, had the husband, had extended family. And so I headed back to Florida. Okay. And I spent time at Stetson, and they allowed me to stay at the dormitory. So I had, 6 to 8 weeks where I was focusing on studying for the bar. I also had one of the bar coaches there that helped me, and she was tremendously helpful for the MBE portion of it, Miss Nina. So while I'm in this dorm room, and I'm not a young person anymore, but I'm back in a dorm room thinking, what in the world is happening to my life?
Yeah.
I came across Celebration.
Yeah.
And when I came across Celebration bar review, something rang true. You all really were sent to me from above. No, and I will say,
we believe that too.
Yes. And at the time, I did not register for you all, but that's where I ended up learning about you all. Mm-hmm. I took the DC bar, and I passed the MBE, but the writing score is what held me up. Mm-hmm. And then I knew, okay, Celebration, that's what I'm calling. And I did. It was one of the best decisions that I ever made, was calling you, Jackson.
Well, I appreciate that. I want to just, before we pick up on the rest of this story, I want to just point out one thing that you said, which I thought became very important later, and that was that you felt like God had put a calling on your life to do this work. And the reason I want to point that out is that in the face of disappointment and setbacks, a lot of people might have said, well, I just give up. I mean, it's just, you had a really good career in nursing. You're very well esteemed in that field. I know from talking to you that your girls are doing really well. Your family's doing well. You had a lot of things going on. You had a lot of things happening with your mom. There was a lot happening in your life. And it would have been very easy to just say, you know what, forget it. I don't need this. But you, and I recall this very distinctly, you said to me, I have to do this. I know that God wants me to do this work, and I believe that there's a reason I've been called to this, so I'm going to stay at it. Is that a fair recapture of what you said?
Absolutely right.
Okay.
And it was pretty much, let's put it this way, it was God, and then also my mother, she taught me better than that. She taught me to never give up. She has always backed me, so...
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of persistence there, and I know that you carried that forward to your daughters in terms of what you expected of them, because we had lots of conversations about modeling and what you do, modeling behavior, not being a clothes model, but modeling behavior for your girls, so that they would see the importance of never giving up and doing something different. So you reached out to us to sit for the UBE, but now you've relocated, right? And you're no longer physically in Louisiana.
Correct. My husband had a job offer in Arizona. Yeah. And so after I ended up taking the DC bar, we went ahead and we relocated the whole entire family to Arizona. Okay. So we were here, and I had you with me. So even though I was across the country.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the nice things about the UBE is that Arizona happens to be a UBE jurisdiction, but it wouldn't have mattered. But it didn't matter where you sat for the exam. You're taking the same test, and your goal still was to get into the DC bar, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the DC bar requires a 266 scaled score. So the first time that you took the exam with us, you came up short of that. And you had already taken the exam, as we talked about, and done well in the MBE, but not good enough on the writing part. This time, first time through, there's some general balance and improvement, but you're still a few points short. And that's where we had the conversation about, do you give up, do you keep going? And you were very clear that you were going to keep going. And you incorporated into your studies a couple of the tools that we offer, photo reading and the paraliminal recordings. Can you talk a little bit about what those tools were like and how you used them?
Yes. Photo reading is one of the best tools that I have been able to share in and be able to have in my bag of tools now, because it allows you to take material, read it rapidly, and then come back and activate that material later to make it your own. The photo reading helped me with my time management tremendously. I'm somewhat of a perfectionist by nature, and so...
This is true, folks.
So previously, I would just go through word by word, on, dragging things out, taking it too far, and I had to pull back. And photo reading allowed me to do it. It helped me to pull back, see what was really important, pull what I needed, and move on. And that is what photo reading did for me. It was tremendous. It helped me save time on the exam. I had time to go back and just make sure that all of my holes were bubbled in, all of my sentences were structured right, and then I sat back like, okay.
Yeah. And this is really significant because I was looking back before our call today at some of our notes from our early phone calls. You probably don't remember this, but the very first essay that you wrote me, you told me it took you 2.5 hours to write, and you get 30 minutes, obviously, on the exam. The first performance test took you 2.5 days to write. So we had some challenges. This perfection thing was real, okay? This was not just, people say, oh, I want perfection. It was important to you to get it right. And so you were taking it very carefully and very slowly. And so photo reading seemed to unlock in you the freedom to really get in and enjoy the material, work with it, begin to own it, and not feel so constrained that it had to be precise word for word kind of reading and understanding. Is that fair?
It is. Photo reading gave me an organic system where I can just pull it down and then give it out.
Yeah.
I would just use my intuition in the process and then just give the material out. And I feel comfortable with it, and I did own the material.
Yeah. You went through the whole course, and then you also used the paraliminal recordings, which were the audible soundtracks, right, in the left and right ear. And those were designed to kind of get at certain barriers or blocks, right, that you were encountering. Did you use a lot of those?
Paraliminals are my friend. I still use them till today, because after being what I would consider a person that was used to succeeding all the time and then having a failure that in my mind made no true sense, because I was doing the work, I was grinding it out, I had to really find a way to let that go. Let it all go. And there's one of the paraliminals that talk about letting it go. Yes. And there were many ones that you said, hey, you would see where my mind was set, and you would say, oh, I think you should do this paraliminal. And it really just allowed me to get in a flow state where I didn't have all this extra baggage that I was holding on to and didn't need to hold on to.
Yeah. We had some interesting phone calls. You were in the personal coaching course, and we did have some calls where, my reputation is that I've been known to bring one or two students to tears, not deliberately, but just hard conversations. And we had some hard conversations. There were a lot of struggles for you in this process, weren't there?
Definitely. It was just locked. It was all locked inside. My emotions had been through a lot. Yeah. And I'm a very caring and loving person, so I take a lot of things what I call to heart. And I had taken it to heart. Yeah. And, you allowed me to say, that exam has nothing to do with who you are. Because you have done a lot. Like, just let me show you what you need to do. Just do it. And everything turned out great.
Yeah.
So
let's talk a little bit about what your mindset was like after the 255 score, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I still got to get to 266. That's an 11-point jump. That's a pretty big jump to hit. You've been at this, trying. What did you have to say to yourself? What did you have to do to get yourself, and I can see you closing your eyes and just sort of going back into that moment, to get yourself ready to climb the mountain again, leading up to the July exams?
I told me that my mind that there's no way that a test is going to stop me from reaching my lifelong dream. And at the time, we had some things happen in our family. I had one of my brothers that I love dearly is no longer with us, Glenn, which he would be very proud that this actually happened for me. At the time, my mom had gotten sick, and she was with me while I was studying for. I had to decide, what I'm going to do. And you and the program helped me to compartmentalize those things. Yeah. To say, when you're with your family, be with your family. Don't think about anything else. But when you get in your study office, you don't worry about nothing else. Believe that everybody is going to be just fine for your 2 hours till you get back. And I had to believe that. And I do believe that. And I believe that it's going to serve me well in the future when I have to compartmentalize other things. Because I know the law is not always about always winning.
That's right.
Sometimes you're going to have some hard fights, and you're going to have to compartmentalize that. And the paraliminals helped me to do that. Before I would set my daughter up, set my mom up, make sure they were good, I would come in here and put on my paraliminal. I would do the 10-minute supercharge, and it went ahead and it reset me. It re-energized me, and then I was ready to take in all that information.
That's great. And I know when we started working towards the July exams, you were absolutely laser focused. I mean, when you came in, when you went into your study office, and I knew what room we were in when we were in the study office, and I knew that you were ready. You had done the work. You were ready to hear the comments and the feedback and engage in the discussion. And we could see, I think both of us could see your work was just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. We've been moving in that direction leading up to February. It just kind of ran out of time. But then we got into July, and it was pretty clear to me that you hadn't regressed from one exam to the next. You sort of stayed at the same level, finished, and now you were starting from a higher beginning point. And your work was just getting stronger and stronger. And near the end of our conferences, the number of conferences we did, you remember that we talked about the confidence and the expectation that you could pass. You remember that?
Definitely. When we would do our coaching sessions, and I had that structure, FLA, I had it down. And at that point, I could actually bring more of my voice into the writing. Mm-hmm. After I had the structure that I knew the bar examiners wanted to see, then I had the ability to kind of throw a little Cindy on top of that. And that is what you helped me to do. And those were the skills that I needed. You gave them to me. And after that, it's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. And the day that I took the exam, my mother was still here. She gave me her cross. She gave me a hug, and I was ready.
Yeah, and so your mental outlook, you had put in the work. I mean, this was not a just I walked in and took the exam one day. You had put in a lot of work, and you had balanced your career, your family, all of the things going on. I mean, there were lots of reasons that you could have and other people might have given up. You didn't. You were gaining confidence, you were gaining momentum, and I felt like as you were going into the exam that you were well positioned. But you're still carrying the burden of not having passed, and that's a burden, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It weighs on you. Yeah. But same thing. I got my paraliminals. I would do my photo readings. I did what you said to do. Pretty much, hey, you tell me you need to go ahead and take a massage the day before so you're not all tensed up. I did what you said to do, and it worked. Yeah. It worked for me.
Yeah. So you go in and you take the exam, and then you've got the fairly long wait for results, which you've been through before, so you know what that process is like. But talk us through what it was like when results came out for the exam.
Well, I had to wait until I got my UBE transcript to see what the score was, to really determine if I had passed this exam or not.
Yeah.
And this is my happy space now when it comes to law. So I saw that had come in on my phone. I was here by myself. The girls were off to school. Richard was off to work. And I came in my room and I told myself, no matter what happens, I'm going to be all right with this. And I said, no matter what happens, I'm still going to get there. So I had already reserved myself, no matter what's happening, I'm still going to be an attorney at law. And I said, all I need to see is a 260-something, and I'll be happy. Mm-hmm. And I pressed the button, click, 268. So...
Wait, just stop here. That number again was what?
268.
268. And let me just say, because I know you've done this, how many states could you get into with a 268?
15 states.
15 states. Folks, I want you to know that you're looking at somebody who went from not passing the bar and not getting into any states to someone who could be licensed in 15 states with one score. Wow. That's a jump. I mean, that is one whale of a jump. And, I mean... Just we said here in the office we were gobsmacked. Not because we didn't expect you to pass, but that big a jump was huge. What did it feel like in that moment? I mean, you're sitting in your office, you see that number. What's the emotion?
I was elated. I was relieved. I felt that what I put in, I was getting back. Mm-hmm. and I felt that I had fought the good fight and finally won. It's been a long road.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why we wanted...
I'm at a good part of the road now.
Yeah, you are, for sure. This is really a big part of why we wanted to ask you to share your story. And I know it's not always easy to share when there have been hardships, but I know that there are people watching right now who are crying. I guarantee it, Cindy, that there are people who are going, oh my God, that's my story, that's my life. What would you say to those people who are feeling that they're down in the depths, they're in despair, they haven't passed, they've gotten their results and they weren't what they were hoping for, and it feels pretty bleak to them?
I would say, don't stop. Don't give up. Persevere. Push past through whatever you have put in your mind, and let celebration help you to get over the hump. And I would say, fight till you get it right.
Yeah. And you fought. I mean, I want to be really clear with our audience. Cindy didn't just passively sit back and say, sure, whatever. You fought. You fought hard. You asked me hard questions. You pushed back when I told you I didn't like certain things. You engaged in the whole process, but you also did everything we asked you to do. And in a way, that makes you a perfect student, because you were willing to acknowledge that you had to change, right? You had to do something different. And you were trying to find that thing that would work, and you were willing to really throw yourself wholeheartedly into that, right? I remember one conversation we had about your daughter. She was a cheerleader, right?
Yes, Lacey is a cheerleader, as I used to be, so I'm real proud of her for that.
And I know I asked you this, and I don't remember the name, but the person that gets thrown up in the air, they called a flyer?
They're the flyers, yes.
Right, and Lacey is a flyer?
Lacey is one of the flyers, yes.
Okay, so when you're a flyer, you got to trust that somebody's going to catch you on the way down, right? You got to do it the right way. And we talked a lot about that analogy as kind of what you had to be going through, right? You were giving up control in a sense, but you were also trusting that you were going to be okay, that somebody would catch you. And for you, a big part of that was your faith. It's your understanding of the universe and God and why you were being called to do all of this. And then believing that we came into your life for a reason. And I want to make that point because I think sometimes people lose sight of the fact that you don't have to believe in the same God that I believe in, but there aren't coincidences. I mean, things happen for reasons. And the ability to have someone that you trust who's telling you, look, if you'll do it this way, if you'll try it this way, it'll work, is enormously important, I think, right?
You have to surrender to the process.
Yeah.
You have to surrender to the process. Once I surrendered to the process, I would get answers right and didn't know why I got them right, but you know what? I knew it. It was in there. You have to really trust in the people you ask to help you.
Right.
The other thing is celebration. They also have you set up accountability people in your life. Mm-hmm. That was wonderful. My brother Kevin was my accountability person, so they would call me, check in on me, and I trust him. I know that he's like, hey, do what they're telling you to do. And you also set up the group coaching calls. Mm-hmm. That was a tremendous help to me. I go to church on Sunday, and then after that, I would have my group coaching call with Kelly. And Kelly from your team is wonderful. She just knew how to bring us all together, and it helped me refocus for the next week. She said, hey, so what's your goal for next week? And you had all these other people going through the same process as you. And some of them were retakers, so they were like, okay, this is where I'm at on the outline. This is where I'm going. I mean, what else do you need but someone to tell you, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going? And that helped me because it helped me from point A to point B. And now I'm at the point I want to be at.
Right. And I'm hopeful that you'll continue to be part of our community and supportive, because I know that's just who you are, and doing all that. So your goal, your step now is you're going to become a member of the DC bar, at least, right?
Definitely. That is my first choice.
Right. But just so you folks know, she could also be a member of the Illinois bar, the New York bar, the New Jersey bar. That's got to make you feel pretty darn special, doesn't it?
It does. It humbles me, though, because I know how hard it was to get here and how many people in my family were, every February and July, I know people in my family were thinking, is this the bar? Is this the one? So, yes.
Got to be exciting in your family when they got the news.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Big African-American family from Louisiana. So you can just imagine the phone calls that I had to put out, call my sister Kay, call my brothers, call, all my aunts. You have to call everybody in Louisiana. You just can't make one phone call.
No, I got that. And then there's got to be a lot of food. That's the other thing.
Well, I can't get to the food right now, but I'm sure they're having a celebration for me.
That's great. Well, Cindy, I just want to say on behalf of our family, congratulations. We are enormously proud of you. This is an extraordinary accomplishment. And I think that it really speaks to not only the person you are, but the kind of lawyer you're going to be. I say this often in these interviews, that the people who persevere are the people that I would like to have representing me if I needed a lawyer, because I know that that's the kind of person that just is going to do their very best. They're not going to give up. They're going to really give it everything that they've got. And that's you. And that's obvious. I think everybody in our audience today can see that. I have no doubt that you will be a very successful member of the bar in whatever way that you choose to use your bar membership. And you have such a range of options open to you now that it's very exciting. I mean, there was a time when, you pass one bar and that's all you get. Today, it's different. And so your score is a reward, in a sense, for having waited and gone through all this. You now get the bountiful blessings, right, of this incredible portfolio of states open to you. So you can do a lot of things. And I really look forward to seeing how that goes and what you do. I know we're going to hear from you again in lots of extraordinary ways. And I know that along with your family and your friends, everyone who's watching is probably thinking, oh my gosh, what a story, what a lady, what a member of the bar. So I would echo all of those thoughts and just thank you. Any final comments that you want to share with our audience before I've taken up too much of your time here, but it's just too good a story.
I would say for all those people that are considering this as a second career, it's never too late to go back, and it's never too late to get to your dreams. And for all those people that come from backgrounds that maybe they don't have attorneys, I am the first attorney in my family, African American female with a family, with another career, with a husband. You can do this. It ain't gonna be easy. Get the right people that you need. Celebration, Bar Review, they can help you. But it can happen because it happened for me.
Awesome. Cindy, thank you so much. It's really been fun catching up with you, and look forward to seeing you again in the future. And to everybody in the audience, hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. We'll see you again next time when we hang out with another successful bar exam taker. Bye-bye, everybody. Well, that's our episode for today. I hope that you found the discussion with Cindy to be encouraging and uplifting and just amazing, isn't it? You can do the same. And I often talk to people who say, I can picture what it'll be like when I get to do my interview with you, Jackson. Cindy's one of those people. So I hope that you'll be one of the next people I get to interview, and that you will have found out, like Cindy did, that you needed to do something different. And the way that starts is by joining us on Thursday, November 8th. Free training at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Just go to celebrationbarreview.com/webinar to register. You can also register for the on-demand version if you don't want to wait until November 8th. In any event, we will see you soon along the extra mile. We look for great results for everyone. Good luck to those of you in Texas and other states as you're waiting for your results coming up this week. And we'll be back to you again next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at www.celebrationbarreview.com.